let's dive into the legendary tale of King Solomon, the wise ruler of ancient Israel. Picture this. Back in the day, around 1010 BCE, there was a dude named David. Yeah, that David, the one who took down Goliath with a sling and a stone. Well, he became king and had a son named Solomon with his wife Bathsheba. Now, Solomon wasn't just any king. He was the third and final ruler of the United Kingdom of Israel, following in the footsteps of his dad. People from different faiths, like Islam and Rastafarianism, also think Solomon was pretty cool, seeing him as a wise king and a prophet. Solomon was known for his smarts, his writing skills, and his knack for building stuff. He was born into royalty, being the 10th son of David and the 2nd son of Bathsheba. And let me tell you, the guy knew how to rule. For 40 years, he was at the helm during what many call the Golden Age of Israel. During his reign, Solomon was like the master of trade. He controlled routes stretching from Edom and Arabia to India and Africa. Plus, he had this massive network of alliances, thanks in part to having hundreds of wives and concubines. Talk about a busy guy. One of Solomon's most famous feats was building the first temple of God in Jerusalem. Sadly, it got wrecked along with the rest of the city by the Babylonians in 586 BCE. But hey, at least he left a mark. Towards the end of his rule, things got a bit dicey. Solomon faced rebellions and attacks from both inside and outside his kingdom. Plus, there were some serious cultural tensions brewing that weakened the country's unity. Despite all that drama, Solomon passed away in 931 BCE at the ripe old age of 80. Leaving behind a legacy as one of Israel's most prosperous kings ever. But wait, there's more to the story. Before Solomon took the throne, his old man David was ruling the roost. Now, David's reign started off strong, but it hit some bumps along the way. He had his fair share of scandals, like that whole mess with Bathsheba and the whole Uriah ordeal. Towards the end of David's life, things got messy. His son Adonijah tried to pull a fast one and declare himself king. But David wasn't having it. With the help of some key players like the prophet Nathan, Bathsheba, and eventually David himself, Solomon was named the heir to the throne. So, after King David passed away, his son Solomon took the throne around 961 BCE. But before David kicked the bucket, he gave Solomon some sage advice, telling him to stay true to the ways of the Lord and basically be a good dude. David also made sure Solomon knew he had to deal with his half-brother Adonijah, who was causing some trouble trying to snatch up one of David's old flames behind Solomon's back. Solomon wasn't having any of it though. He sent his guy Benaiah to take care of Adonijah and some other troublemakers who were stirring up trouble. It wasn't exactly a peaceful transition of power, but Solomon wasn't messing around when it came to keeping control. Now, here's where things get interesting. Solomon had this divine moment where he asked God for wisdom and knowledge to rule his people well. And you know what? God was impressed. Not only did Solomon get smarts, but he also got heaps of riches, honor, and all that jazz. Talk about a jackpot. With his newfound wisdom and wealth, Solomon went to work. He beefed up defense, expanded the royal court, and made sure Jerusalem was dripping in gold and cedar. Plus, he was a real player on the international scene, forming alliances left and right with neighboring nations like Egypt, Moab, and Tyre. And let's not forget about his massive harem of 700 wives and 300 concubines. Dude was living large. But the real highlight of Solomon's reign? The Queen of Sheba. She rode into town with a ton of gold as a tribute and was blown away by Solomon's swanky digs and his brainpower. They hit it off pretty well, and she even helped boost Solomon's trade connections with other Arabian kings. Some folks even believe they had a kid together, whose descendants included Haile Selassie I, a big deal in the Rastafarian faith. Now, let's talk about Solomon's most ambitious project yet, the temple. This wasn't just any old building, it was a grand masterpiece, built to house the Ark of the Covenant, which was kind of a big deal back then. You see, Solomon was all about fulfilling his dad David's wishes, and of course, doing what God wanted. Construction kicked off in the 4th year of Solomon's reign, and let me tell you, it was no small feat. It took a whopping 7 years to finish, but when it was done, oh boy, it was a sight to behold. To celebrate, Solomon went all out, sacrificing more oxen and sheep than you could count in a 7-day bash. Now, let's talk about the temple itself. Picture this. double the size of the old tabernacle, built mainly from stone but decked out in cedar and gold. Inside, it was like something out of a dream, with fancy carvings, golden lampstands, and all sorts of other bling. The cherry on top, the Ark of the Covenant finally had a proper home in the most sacred room of the temple, known as the Holy of Holies. This place was off limits to pretty much everyone except the chief priest, who could only enter on the Day of Atonement. Talk about exclusive access. But Solomon wasn't done there. Oh no, he had a knack for building stuff, so he went ahead and constructed his own palace, plus a bunch of other cool buildings like the Palace of the Forest of Lebanon, the Hall of the Pillars, and the Hall of Justice. And get this, he didn't just stop at Jerusalem. He rebuilt cities, commissioned fleets of ships, and even dabbled in some gardening with the famous Hanging Gardens. Solomon was like the ultimate architect and builder, leaving his mark not just in Jerusalem but all across the land. So, not only was Solomon a master builder and a shrewd ruler, but he was also quite the literary genius. Yep, he's the brains behind some of the most famous books in the Hebrew scriptures. Picture this, Solomon sitting down with his quill and parchment, penning timeless wisdom in the form of proverbs. These little nuggets of advice cover everything from making smart life choices to dealing with everyday struggles. Then there's the Song of Songs, a romantic masterpiece that celebrates love in all its forms. It's like the ultimate love poem, capturing the passion and beauty of relationships. But Solomon didn't stop there. Oh no, he went on to write Ecclesiastes, a deep dive into the meaning of life itself. It's all about reflecting on the purpose of existence, touching on themes like wisdom, wealth, and the pursuit of happiness. And get this, Solomon wasn't just a wordsmith in the realm of theology. He dabbled in poetry, history, and even scientific works on botany and zoology. Talk about a Renaissance man. But despite all his achievements, Solomon's downfall came from within. See, he started prioritizing his foreign wives and their gods over his relationship with the one true God. And that didn't sit too well upstairs. Yep, even the wisest guy on the planet had his moments of folly. So, when Solomon passed away in 931 BCE, things took a turn for the worse. His son Rehoboam took the throne, but his reign was marred by civil war, ultimately leading to the end of the United Kingdom of Israel in 930 BCE. Now, let's delve into the realm of archaeology and see what evidence we can uncover about the legendary King Solomon. You see, verifying the existence of ancient kings like Solomon is no easy task, especially when most of what we have to go on are ancient texts and the occasional archaeological find. But hey, that hasn't stopped historians and archaeologists from digging deep and piecing together clues from the past. Take for example the Bubastis Portal Gate, discovered back in 1828 by none other than Jean-Francois Champollion, the same guy who cracked the code of the Rosetta Stone. Among the paintings on its walls was a list of conquered peoples by Pharaoh Shoshenq, including those from the Heights of David, suggesting a connection to Solomon's era. Then there's the Matia Stele, found by missionary Frederick Augustus Klein in 1868. This ancient stone inscription references the Moabites, their god, and even mentions the nation of Israel and its sixth king, Omri. Similar discoveries like the Black Obelisk of Shalmaneser III and the Chronicle of Sennacherib further confirm the existence of Israelite kings during Solomon's time. But perhaps the most exciting find came in 1993 with the Tel Dan inscription. This broken stele commemorates the victory of an Aramean king over his southern neighbors and directly references both the King of Israel and the King of the House of David, providing some of the earliest historical evidence for the Davidic dynasty. In more recent years, archaeologists have unearthed even more fascinating artifacts. In 2010, Eilat Mazar and her team discovered a 10th century BCE wall in Jerusalem, possibly dating back to Solomon's reign. And just 2 years later, they found an ancient structure at the Offal, along with the earliest alphabetical letters ever found in Jerusalem, hinting at a sophisticated society during Solomon's time. But the discoveries didn't stop there. In 2013, radiocarbon dating evidence revealed that copper mines in Israel's Arava Desert were actually operated by the Edomites, ancient enemies of Israel mentioned in the scriptures. And in 2014, clay seals found near Gaza hinted at official government activity during Solomon's era. Even more recently, in 2016, small artifacts from the Temple Mount were discovered, dating back nearly 3,000 years to the time of the First Temple. These finds, including pottery fragments and olive pits, provide further evidence of a bustling society during Solomon's reign. So, while we've uncovered some intriguing evidence that supports the existence of a united kingdom of Israel and its legendary kings like Solomon, there's still plenty left to discover. New archaeological finds and advancements in technology continue to shed light on the ancient past, revealing secrets hidden for centuries. While we found evidence of other kings mentioned in the scriptures, like Omri and Hezekiah, the lack of direct historical and archaeological references to King Solomon outside of the Hebrew scriptures is a bit puzzling. After all, he's often portrayed as the wisest and most prosperous king of his time.